Am I audible to everyone? Am I audible? Okay, okay, okay. Right. Let us start our today's session. In the last class, we have started discussing uh, the old and new MapReduce framework APIs. So in the last class, we have started discussing the first version of Hadoop API for the MapReduce framework. And now let us continue the remaining part of it. My screen is visible to everyone. Is it visible to you? Okay, okay. Right. So in the last class, we have started discussing of the Hadoop API for the MapReduce framework. So in the last class, we have started discussing the classic MapReduce. So there it contains 4 independent blocks. One is client, job tracker, task tracker, and the distributed system. And now in that, the first part is how a client is going to be submit a job. So in order to submit the job, internally the submit method, it creates an interface, an instance of job submitter, and then it calls the submit the job internally. Okay, so these are the steps that are exist when you try to submit your job to the Hadoop API. Okay, so in that these are the following responsibilities that the job submitter does during the submission process, right? What it does is it creates a new ID for the job which you are going to submit, and it verifies the input and as well as output paths that you have specified in the your driver code. Driver code in the sense, so here we have specified file input for dot format add input path. Similarly, set the output path. So from this, what it observes is whatever the input path that you have specified, okay, whether it is correct or not. That means suppose if you specify it as an improperly, that means if your input file is existing in the D drive, unfortunately you typed it as an E drive. What happens in that case? It is unable to find out the path of the file. Okay, so if it is unable to find out the path, what happens in that case? It is unable to split it into blocks. So it is unable to construct the splits, right? So first it verifies the path that you have specified. With that, it is able to construct the splits or not. If it is not case, it will be respond with an error message. Similarly, if output path. So before going to write the outputs into that, what it verifies is there any file or is there any folder that exists with the name which you have specified in your output path. If it is already exists, it assumes that somebody or some other job is going to write something into that location, right? So that is the reason it is unable to store the results. So that's why immediately it will generate an error message without running your job. So that is the reason. Make sure that while specifying the output, okay, that not exist previously. So always you try to create a new file where you want to write your outputs. Okay, run. And then once the verification of input and output paths and then job ID creation is over, the next step is it copies all the job related files which are available at the jar file into the job trackers file system. That means which is a local file system for the job tracker, right? So what it stores is the configuration to copied file system by ID, whatever the ID that it was created, at the beginning of this process. Okay, but with that name, it will be created a folder in the job trackers file system, on which it stores the jar file which is related to your job and configuration files, as well as the number of constructs, input splits. Okay, these all things will be stored into the directory which was created in the job trackers file system with the name of job ID. Okay, and finally it informs to the job tracker, right, that the job is ready for the execution by calling the method submit method on the job tracker. In such a way, a job is going to be submitted. Okay, and now see here you can answer that job, get new job ID. Okay, after that, what it should does, it verifies two important steps. One is verification of input path and verification of output path. After that, the contents will go to the shared file system. The contents which are necessary, that means like jar file, as I told you, jar file, number of construct splits. Okay, these all things will be stored into this file system with the job ID, okay, and then last it submits the job by calling them. Once all these three operations are executed successfully, then it calls the method job submit method. Okay, and now then see next assignment. So now once the job is ready for the execution, it is the time the job tracker need to assign this task to somebody else. Somebody else in the sense, it need to assign the job execution, delegates the responsibility of the job execution to the data nodes where the actual splits are going to be stored, on which the task tracker is going to perform the operation. That means on which the MapReduce program is going to be executed. For the MapReduce program, that input block will be considered as an input, and whatever the logic that you have defined, that will be applied on the split block, and finally it generates the outputs. Okay, so those outputs will be stored in the output path which you have specified in your MapReduce program. So for that, what does the task assignment, while assigning the task, what are the activities that are to be performed is, the task tracker run a simple loop that periodically sends heartbeat method calls to the job tracker. As you are aware of that, with this heartbeat mechanism only, the job tracker is able to identify what are the data nodes that are in active state. Okay, and heartbeat tells the job tracker that the task tracker is alive. Okay, and the task tracker have a fixed number of slots for map tasks and for reduce tasks. That means based on the capacity of your system, because here the basic design principle of Hadoop is, without adding any highly configured systems, whatever the resources that are available with us, with that we'll try to execute the huge volume of files by constructing them into clusters of commodity hardwares. So in that, in that cluster, there might be a i5 system will be there, i3 system will be there, or P3 system. Pentium 3 systems are also be there. So if you are looking at the memories that are available at 3 different configurations, probably the Pentium 3 system will have less configuration when compared with the higher generation computers, right? So in that case, when you assign n number of tasks to the Pentium 3 system, what happens in that case? It is unable to process. It is unable to accommodate, first of all. Processing is the next step, but initially it is unable to accommodate because whatever the spread that it was allocated to the data node, that will be physically stored in the data node's file system. So, lack of memory space available at P3, Pentium 3 system, it is unable to accommodate. Okay, so that is the reason always how many number of map tasks and reduced tasks are supposed to be executed in that will be fixed. So based on that information only, the job tracker is going to be assigned the number of tasks to that particular task tracker, right? Suppose if it is fixed to the two map process and 2 reducer method. So always at any given point of time, it is able to allocate maximum of 2 map and reduce methods only. Hope you are clear with this point, right? And next one is the task execution. Now that the task tracker has been assigned a task, the next step is for it to run the task. Now, once it was allocated to a particular task tracker, now what are the steps that are involved in the execution of the or running of the task? So first, what it does, it need to be capture all the information required for the execution of that particular task. Where it is available? It is available at the shared file system. Okay, so from that shared file system, it need to extract all the files. Whatever is essential for it. Okay, simply you can imagine jar files. Okay, and those will be copied into the local file system. Local file system in the sense where that particular task runner is running, or simply you can imagine that where it is running in data node. Okay, so the files which are related to this particular job will be copied from shared file system to data node file system. Say for example, if the data is available, let us assume that if the data is available at a server, okay, if you want to execute it in our system, in our laboratory system, what you are supposed to do, you need to fetch the information from the server and keep it in your system so that we can start execution on it. So in the similar way, here also it copies the content from the shared file system to task trackers. Task tracker in the sense it is a code, right? Wherever the system on which task tracker is running, in that system file system only it will be stored. Okay, because it writes temporary outputs into the local file system rather than shared file system, right? So then it creates a local working directory for the task and unjars the contents, because as I told you, it is an archive. Jar file, jar stands for Java archive. You can think it is a WinZip file, right? Zipped file or archived file. So you need to extract the files from it. So wherever the jar file is copied, from that you can extract the files and store it in your local directory. In third, it creates an instance of task runner to run the task. Just simply it creates an instance, because task runner will not always execute a single task. Sometimes multiple tasks are also be assigned to that. So for that reason, simply it creates an instance of the task runner which will take care of execution of this particular job. So, and at the same time, whatever the problems that occurred while executing this particular job will not affect the task runner's functionality, because there is a problem. Suppose one task runner instance is created, for that one job is allocated. Okay, while compiling that job, there might be some errors. Okay, so those errors, clearance and all the things will be taken care by. Clearance in the sense you are supposed to clear the compilation errors, right? So these all the supervision controlling mechanism will be taken care by your task runner interface. So during that time, the original task tracker is maybe busy with some other housekeeping activity, right? So for each and every task, it creates an instance of the task runner who will take care of the complete responsibility. It will act as a task tracker for that particular job. Hope you all clear. Is it clear to everybody? Or if you have any difficulty while understanding this, once again I will clear it. You can respond in the chat box if you have any query. Please make it fast. What are the things that are happening? Okay, right. Hope you all clear with the job submission method, right? This part is clear. Job submission process. What happens when we try to submit the job? Is it clear or not? Okay, right, done. Now, once again, discuss this particular one, task assignment, right? Once the job tracker receives all the information related to the job executed, job is ready for execution. So it is the time that job need to be allocated to someone else in the sense, some data node. Okay. So in that case, what are the steps that are involved in that assignment process is, first what we require, the job tracker need to verify whether the task tracker is active or not. Before allocating a task to a particular task tracker, first it need to verify whether it is active or not. How it will be done? With the help of heartbeats. So periodically it conducts some polling mechanism. With that mechanism, we try to know that what are the task trackers that are active at this particular moment, right? So after knowing a particular task tracker is active, so here don't be confused that in the data node in the sense it is a system. Okay, task tracker is a mechanism. You can imagine it is a program. Okay, so it is a program which is running on the data node system. So sometimes I am using data node, sometimes I am using task tracker. Don't be confused. Both of them are not same. The task tracker functionality is running on the data node, like some C++ software is running in your system. So here C++ is the task tracker and your system is a data node, right? All right. So once it verifies whether the task tracker, a particular task tracker is active right now, or it ready to take the responsibilities. So once it confirms from the by taking the heartbeat from the task tracker, what job tracker does is it will be allocated to the task is allocated to that particular task tracker. Okay. Now the task tracker having certain limitations, like the total number of maps and reduce methods are fixed always. Because of its availability of the configuration, memory storage area or speed and all, by keeping all these constraints in mind, always it maintains a fixed number of maps. That means at any given point of time, it is able to process 2 map methods or 2 reduce methods if the capacity is 2. Similarly, if the capacity is 5, then at any given point of time, if you take, it is able to process maximum of 5 map methods and 5 reduce methods only, right? So because that is also be verified, because if you allocate beyond the capacity of this task tracker, what happens? It leads to problems, because anyway it is active in the sense whether it is in working condition or not. Yes, it is in working condition, but still already 2 jobs are allocated to this, 2 tasks are allocated to this particular task tracker. The capacity of the task tracker is 2 only. In that case, when you try to assign the third one, what happens in that case? It leads to problem. So that is what I mean to say. Okay. So it all depends upon the memory and all. So based on that, the job will be allocated. And once the job is allocated to a particular task tracker, and it is the time to execute that job. So for that, what task tracker has to do? What is the responsibility here itself? Whatever the split that was allocated to the data node will be considered as an input for the MapReduce program. MapReduce program. Don't be confused. Task tracker is separate activity. MapReduce program is separate activity. MapReduce program is the program which is supplied by the user, and task tracker is the mechanism which is running by default in the data node. During the configuring in the distributed mode, what we did is we need to specify the IP addresses of the data nodes with the name node. We'll share with those all these things, and we will install the Hadoop in the local environment so that the data node, whatever the job tracker mechanism task, these all things are by default, they were installed in your data node itself. Okay. So once you installed all these things, now a user can submit the MapReduce job. Okay. So during the submission in the main program, what we have observed is so here you can observe this is the driver code. Main program means this is the driver code where we can specify, we will configure the configuration object, job configuration object. So that means all the job related, whatever the job. That means suppose if your job is maximum temperature here itself. Okay. For that, all the configuration controls.
అన్ని అక్కడక్కడ కొనుక్కొచ్చినాయి.
చెట్లు నీళ్ళు పెట్టినాయా? నీళ్ళు పెట్టినాయమన్నా?
యాంటికి షెడ్లో నీళ్ళు పడతానికి
మొత్తం పట్టింది ఇదంతా.
585. ప్లీజ్ మ్యూట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్.
షెడ్ కాదు, మా రెండిళ్ళు మునిగిపోయినాయి. అందుకండి మా పైన బడ్లు పెట్టుకుంటామా మీరు మునుగు
585. See, all of you, please mute yourself, because by default we have set in order to raise the queries only we will give you the provision to unmute yourself.
మనిషి కన్నా మనిషి కొంత పర్లేదు కదా తాత గారు.
So now you don't have the provision to unmute yourself. I will change the setting. Anything, if you want to communicate anything or if you want to raise any queries, please use the chat box only right now. Okay, because it disturbs the flow of action. Right. Okay. So here the job configuration object contains the information which is related to this, all the controls. Don't worry, we will see elaborately what job configuration object immediately after completion of this Hadoop frameworks, right? So here the name of the class job is maximum temperature, and as you all aware of that in Java, a class file will be created with this name. Okay, that is the class file which is used for running your program. So that's why whatever the class, that name here you have specified, that will be used as the class file name here, right? For this class, we'll create the configuration object. Okay, and this object will contain the name. Job name is maximum temperature. Okay, now why I am telling all these things is okay. So here add input path. What this program will does with this input path? Simply it go to the path that you have specified here itself. Okay, from that it extracts a file, say for example in.txt or input.txt. That is the file where your inputs are contained. Assume that. Okay, so it captures that I mean, it fetches that file, and that file need to be divided into blocks, right? Need to be split it into blocks, equal sized blocks. And once that process is done, what is the next job? That need to be distributed to the task trackers. Nodes where the task tracker is running, right? So extracting the input file, splitting them up, assigning it to the task trackers, these all things are supervised by job tracker. Things in the job submission process. In the job submission process, job ID will be created. It verifies the input file, output file, okay, and then it copies the information related to the job tracker's local file system. That means once the splitting is constructed, once all the splits are constructed successfully, okay, so this whole information will be placed into that. Okay, from that, once everything is ready, now job tracker need to verify who are the task trackers are available. Before going to distribute the data, you need to check active. Once it confirms the activeness from the task trackers, so it is the time to allocate it to the data nodes, right? So during that time, the allocation in the sense, it need to supply the input blocks, it need to supply the output bar that you have specified in all these things. Okay, so here what happens is the input blocks are constructed, and those blocks, by verifying task tracker activeness by the job tracker, so those input blocks will be supplied to the particular data node where the particular task tracker is running. Is it clear? Is it clear, or don't be confused that when you develop the program, automatically internally it will happen like that. Right? So once the input blocks are constructed and they were distributed to the data nodes, that means distributed to the data node means once these blocks are allocated, so all the information related to that, will be copied from shared file system of the job tracker to local system or local file system, right? So once how it will be done is simply it copies all the files. So as I told you, in the job, while submitting the job, there one directory will be created with the job ID in the job tracker's file system, okay, on which all these files are stored. So the same content will be copied from job tracker file system to local file system where the task tracker is running, because it is the physical one, or it is the place where the actual job is executed, not in job tracker's memory location, right? Because the input blocks are available here itself. The code which you have supplied will execute these blocks. These all things will be done by the task tracker. Then it copies it and it unzip the contents. And third, it creates the task runner. It creates the task runner instance. Okay, so with that instance, the task tracker will try to supervise the complete execution of this particular task itself. Okay, so that means right from the beginning execution of the task till end of the task. Till the end of the task, in a sense, once the execution is successfully completed, so the same information will be communicated to the task runner, task tracker. Task tracker in turn, it will be communicated to the job tracker. Okay. Is it clear or not? Is it clear? Or still you have any confusions? Because it is very essential. You are able to differentiate what is job tracker, what is task tracker, what is your MapReduce program. These three things you are able to differentiate. So you should be clear with these three aspects. So please let me know if you have any doubt. Please. Anybody? If you have, are you able to differentiate these three or not? That is very important. Because if you are not able to differentiate it, 520. Okay. I'll allow you to unmute yourself. Yes, now you can unmute yourself. 520. Are you able to unmute or not? 520. Bharadwaj. Are you there or not? Okay, okay, thank you. Varun, hope you are, is it clear to you or not?
Yes, sir.
Now are you able to differentiate what is the job tracker, what is the task tracker, and what is your MapReduce program?
Yeah, sir. Is
Okay,
my voice audible?
okay. Yeah, audible, audible.
Yeah, okay, sir.
I can hear your voice.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I can differentiate, sir. Those three.
Yeah. Okay, done. Anybody else? Anybody else who is unable to differentiate these three, so that we will take another example and we will explain, because moving forward is not an issue, but clearing and clear understanding of the concepts is more important here, because this is the base. So that is the reason why I'm asking a number of times, are you clear or not?
Sir, repeat again, sir.
Which one? Which one?
Progress and status updates, sir.
Okay. This is not yet discussed right now. Remind, previous two are clear: task assignment and job submission. Those two are clear or not? Huh? 22. Those two are clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Done. Now, let us see the progress and status updates. As you are aware of that, our assumption is it is a huge volume of files. So definitely, even though if you split it into blocks, okay, so sometimes the block size is also maybe huge in size. In that case, what happens is probably it takes some time to complete the particular job. Maybe 1 minute, or maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour. Sometimes when you are dealing with image processing projects, okay, the outputs may be generated after 1 week. During this time, it is continuously running, and they will be produced after 1 week. So such kind of projects are also there. But here our intention is, when we are processing large files, definitely it took some amount of time. That is the thing which I want to clear. Okay. During that time, say for example, as I told you, image processing applications take a lot of time for producing the results. So during that 1 week of time, you may be some sort of fear, like whether my job is executing successfully or not, or is there any bugs, or is there any errors. So how do you know the status, whether whatever the part that it was executed is successfully or not? That means a part of your program is executed successfully or not. How do you know? So for that purpose, the Hadoop framework is providing, Hadoop API is providing certain mechanism of knowing the progress and the status of your execution. Okay. So with the help of this progress and status updates, right? I think in the, so here you can observe the reduce input values and as well as output values, followed by reporter. While explaining this, I told you we will discuss it later, right? So reporter, this is the, with this object, we will try to know the progress and status updations of your execution, right? So with this reporter object, we'll try to know the execution status of the, so the same is applicable in map also. So you can see sometimes for mapper logic also we use the reporter object if you want to know the status of the your execution, right? Map logic and as well as reducer logic. Okay, in both the places we'll use the reporter object in order to find out the status of, or progress of your application, right? And okay, so with that we'll try to know the processing and all. A job and each of its tasks have a status which includes such things as the state of the job or task running successfully completed. The progress of maps and reduces the values of the jobs counters and status messages are displayed. Okay, this is the thing which I told you. And when a task is running, it keeps track of its progress. That is, the portion of the task is completed. For map tasks, this is the portion of the input that has been processed. For the reduced task, it is a little more complex. I mean, what are the number of outputs are produced is a little bit confusing because at any given point of time, it is processing the data. So how many number of intermediate blocks are completed successfully is announcing that information is somehow complex one, right? So with the help of that reporter object, we are able to know the progress of our task, right? And now job completion. When the job tracker receives a notification that the last task for a job is complete, that means, as you are aware of that, all the input blocks may not be allocated to single data node. It will be allocated to n number of data nodes. Suppose if your input file will be divided into 10 blocks, so that 10 blocks will be assigned to 10 data nodes. Assume that. Sometimes 2 or 3 of the same file task may be allocated to single data node. Okay. So for better understanding, here the assumption is 10 blocks are allocated to 10 different data nodes. Okay. In that, the first data node 1 to data node 5 are highly configured systems. From data node 6 to data node 10 are low configured systems. Assume that. Okay. And when you are submitting the jobs, the high configuration systems may be processed. High speed processors, they may be complete their job within less amount of time when compared with the data nodes from 6 to 10, right? So, but job tracker may not produce the final results until unless it completes the all the input splits, right? So once it finishes the execution of all the input splits, then only we are able to write the final result into the So here, as I shown you, a part of the output you can also view. So here you can observe this particular part. Cat output part of 0000, right? That means a portion of the output will be displayed here, right? Instead of that, if you want to view all the complete output information, okay? So if you want to know the part, yes, you can do like this. But instead of that, if you want to view the complete output, simply you can display cat output.txt, where the whole information is available. So when it will be completed, all the input splits are processed by all the data nodes, and all the data node task trackers submit the result to the, it passes the information to the job tracker regarding the completion of the job. Then only it is able to publish the results into the output directory, right? So once it was successfully executed and all the blocks, then it changes the status for the job to successful. Right? During that time, suppose first 5 nodes are completed successfully, while executing the remaining things, there might be a problem. Then so it need to resolve. Suppose if the system gets failed, so the data node 9 gets failed. Immediately, whenever the job tracker is conducting some poll like verification of activeness of the task trackers, if it found the 9th system is not working properly, in that case what happens? Again, immediately it will activate other data node where the second replica is available. Okay, so in order to complete all these things, it takes some time. So once it completes the task execution in all aspects, then only it will change the status of the job to successful. Maybe sometimes it is failed, maybe it is running. Okay, so these statuses which you can view with the help of reporter object. Okay, so then when the job polls for the status, it learns that the job has completed successfully. So it prints a message to tell the user and then returns from the wait for completion method. Okay, whenever it started wait for completion process, once it was completed, it exits from this particular method. And last, the job tracker cleans up its working state for the job and instruct the task tracker to do the same. Because once the execution of the job is over, okay, immediately after completion, after informing to the user, it need to clear all the information which is kept. 531. Unmute yourself. Right. So it need to clean up the directory where it stores the job related information. Where it stores the job related information, whatever the job ID it was created. Okay. In that it keeps some information regarding that job. Okay. So all those information will be deleted. Similarly, while executing the task tracker copies the contents from job tracker file system to local file system. For that reason, job tracker will pass information task tracker. Okay, the execution of this particular task is successfully completed. So you can clean up whatever the contents that you kept for processing that particular job. All the contents you can remove. Like that, it passes information to the task tracker. Right? In such a way, a task is going to be executed in classic MapReduce environment. Is it clear to everybody? Is it clear or not? Okay. So let us start. Another kind of framework is the second version of Hadoop. Hadoop 2.0 is MapReduce 2, which is also called as ARN. Yet another resource negotiator. Framework. Okay. So ARN meets the scalability of shortcomings of Classic. Shortcomings of Classic in the sense, say for example, in the previous case, what we understood is the job tracker takes the responsibility of the splitting of the contents, allocating it, distributing to the data nodes, and allocating the task to the task trackers. These all the things will be supervised by job tracker. Okay. Suppose job tracker is also a software. Suppose if it was corrupted or if something went wrong with that, then what is the position of all the jobs which are running currently? Say for example, when you are working under a supervisor, all of a sudden if your supervisor left from your organization, what you will do? Simply you will try to sit ideally. You don't want to do any work. Right? So what happens in that case? So the organization will appoint someone to take care of supervising yourself, so that based on the instructions given by the newly appointed one, you will start or you can begin your working. Similarly, in the classic MapReduce framework also, once the job tracker gets failed, then all the jobs need to be restarted, irrespective of their patient. Some of the jobs may be at ending state, some of the jobs may be at beginning of the state. Whatever it may be the state of the jobs, all the things need to be restarted, because there is no other mechanism is available to take care of the execution of the jobs whenever the job tracker gets failed. So here, and another important, that is lack of availability. And another important aspect is, whenever if your cluster size gets increased, that means if your cluster size increased more than 4,000, 5,000, because in real-time scenario, it is necessary to connect thousands, lakhs of systems into a cluster. So in that case, in the classic framework, you maximum of you are able to construct 4,000 nodes in a cluster. If you try to add more than that, then definitely it creates a problem. Okay, it leads to the stuck of your entire application. So that is the reason in the ARM, these are some of the factors that motivating the people to develop the new MapReduce framework for the Hadoop API. Okay, so as a part of the trials is YARN. Yet another resource negotiator, it is the second framework, okay, which was developed at 2010, and officially it was released in the year 2013. Okay, so the ARM meets the scalability shortcomings of the classic MapReduce by splitting the responsibilities of the job tracker into separate entities. Separate entities. That means the whole thing will not be handled by job tracker only. Okay, it has some two subordinates. Okay, it will delegate those things to those subordinates. So even though if the job tracker gets failed, the subordinators will take care of functioning of the execution of the jobs. Okay, so the job tracker takes care of both job scheduling and task progress monitoring. Okay, scheduling the job, scheduling in the sense it allocates tasks to the task managers, and how many task trackers are alive right now. So all these kind of activities will be taken care by job tracker. Okay, and YARN separates these two roles into two independent. Overall, this is the responsibility of the job tracker, but internally, this will be job scheduling will be taken care by one, and task progressing monitoring will be taken care by another data. Right? One is resource manager, and another one is application manager. Okay, so these are the two important components of the job tracker who will take care of these two activities. Okay, so a resource manager to manage the use of resources across the cluster, and an application master to manage the life cycle of applications running on the cluster. Right? Just simply the resource manager means here how many data nodes are ideal right now and their capacities, and how much data we can allocate them. These all things will be handled by resource manager. Okay, resource manager, right? And application manager, he made a request to the resource manager, like job tracker. What it does is, whenever it receives the job, immediately it will pass it to the resource manager. Like you can calculate how many number of resources are required for it. Okay, so you just estimate all those things and you just give the information regarding readiness. Okay, so immediately what the resource manager will do, he will try to find out how many data nodes are required in order to complete this task, and it verifies whether they are available or not. Okay, once it completes all this information, it will pass information to the job tracker. So what job tracker does, immediately it will pass to the application manager. What application manager will do, again, he will start the execution of the task. Whatever we have discussed previously, from the job submission to job completion, these all the activities will be taken care by application master itself. The life cycle. Life cycle means from the beginning to end. Okay. Meanwhile, if the failures are also be occurred, those can also be handled by this application manager. Okay. So the idea behind that is, an application master negotiates with the resource manager for cluster resources. Okay. So there, once the task is allocated to this, immediately the task, application manager will fetch the information from the resource manager about the resources that are allocated to this particular job. And another important point here itself is there is no right to the application master to access other than the resources which are allocated other than for a job. That means suppose for application, for a particular application, 5 resources are allocated. Our application master is restricted to access only those 5 resources. It won't be allowed to access other resources even though they are free. Hope you are clear with this point, right? And then it runs the a particular application on the resources for which it was allocated. Okay. Hope is it clear to everybody? The remaining things which we will discuss in the next class. Are you clear or any queries? Any queries? Any queries, please? Is it clear up to now? Nobody is responding. Are you there or not? Yes, somebody please respond. Okay. So hope you are clear with this. And in the next class, we will continue the remaining part. Right? And today's absentees are number 9, 34, 57, 65, 78, and 83. 9, 34, 57, 65, 78, and 83. Who is number 585? 585. Are you there or not? 531. 531. So here ask them, both the people, to contact me. Okay. The remaining things which we can discuss in the next class. Now I will end the session. Thank you.